Hello, welcome to Midweek Manna. It is December 16th, it's Wednesday afternoon. It's kind of a chilly, rainy afternoon here in North Carolina, in Hudson, North Carolina. We had the threat of freezing stuff falling. I'm not sure we quite got there, but it's a cold and wet day. You have joined me at Hudson United Methodist Church in Hudson, North Carolina. We are at the foot of the mountain going up toward Blowing Rock and Boone, North Carolina, in the beautiful western part of the state. I'm Pastor Holly McKim, and I thank you for being here with me. This short time together is meant to be like spiritual food for your midweek. Food to help us renew and rejuvenate. It would be for the English like having afternoon tea to get us through to the next part of the day. So Midweek Manna is meant to get us through the next part of our week. For the last several weeks, I have been talking about what Paul writes in the book of Galatians as the fruit of the Spirit. You can find a list of the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5, verses 22 through 23. He lists the things like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Today, I'm going to talk about the sixth fruit of the Spirit in that list, goodness. And then he continues the list with faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So in the next few weeks, you can look ahead. I'll be talking about those last three in the next 3 weeks. But what is Paul talking about, this fruit of the Spirit? Well, let's go ahead of verse 22, and let me read you kind of the list of opposites. Paul writes in Galatians chapter 5, beginning about verse 19, he says, the actions that are produced by selfish motives are obvious. And I want to say, are they really? In today's society, in today's world? Maybe not so much. So let's hear a reminder from Paul of those things that are actions produced by selfish motives. Since they include sexual immorality, moral corruption, doing whatever feels good, idolatry, drug use, and casting spells, hate, fighting, obsession, losing your temper, competitive opposition, conflict, selfishness, group rivalry, jealousy, drunkenness, partying, and other things like that. He says, I warn you, as I have already warned you, that those who do these kinds of things will not inherit God's kingdom. And then he goes on to talk about the fruit of the Spirit. It's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. What does Paul mean by goodness? You can go back into our archives and retrieve the videos for those fruit of the Spirit ahead of goodness. But some might think of goodness as getting a good fortune in a fortune cookie, or on those chocolates that I love so much, the Dove chocolates. They're a little bit bigger than kisses, and you unwrap the foil and there's a little saying on there. No, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the things that you're good at doing. That's not what Paul is talking about. So what is he talking about? Well, below those scriptures, Paul writes about these fruit of the Spirit. He says, there is no law against these things. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified self and its passions and its desires. If we live by the Spirit, let's follow the Spirit. Let's not become arrogant, make each other angry, or be jealous of each other. And yet, I still want to know, what's Paul talking about goodness? Well, all of the fruit of the Spirit is really not a selfish, inward kind of characteristic. It is all about God. So let me explain a little bit further. It's a different way to think about goodness. When we think about goodness as in the goodness of God, as a child of God, we have innate in us, like our DNA, we have the imago Dei, the image of God created within us. And in that, the goodness is our desire to see the goodness of God in others. I'm going to repeat that. It's a reflection of God. It is our desire in our image of God, the image of God created in each of us. Each of us holds this image of God. It is our desire to see goodness in others. Let me explain further. It's like lifting up rather than belittling. It is like encouraging rather than accusing. It is like building up rather than tearing down. It is improving by shining the light of Christ into the darkness. Goodness is more about matching our DNA, our image of God, being that image of God with God, wanting to see the goodness in others. So, Paul's fruit of the Spirit is less about what you think or what you feel is good, but it's all about your desire for others to experience the goodness of God. So how are you helping another person go to a deeper level with their relationship with God? How are you helping someone else in their relationship with God? Helping them to see the goodness. Now I know what you're saying, especially here in our county. The COVID numbers are just like a wildfire out in California. It's destroying families. People are dying. People are testing positive at an alarming rate. And here it is, just a little over a week before Christmas, a time when families would gather, a time when we would share our love with one another with food, with gifts, with being present with each other. It doesn't seem like a time when it would be easy to share the goodness of God. But I challenge you. I challenge you to put aside your selfish motives, that list that Paul talks about ahead of the fruit of the Spirit, and focus on those things can make someone else's life better. Psalm 34, verse 8. There's a song written based on this verse. It says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste and see that the Lord is good." Not just you, but others as well. So take your fruit of the Spirit, take your goodness, and use it with others. Be a reflection of God this day and every day. Just a little bit of food. It's not enough to fill, but it is enough to get you hungry for more. Until we are gathered together again on Sunday at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be here for worship. We'll be here with music and lights. We'll be here in the presence of God. Until then, blessings, my friends, and goodness to you. Amen.